Hello everyone. I, Twinkle, Research Associate at Environment and Waste Management Division, welcome you all to the 2021 edition of the TERI annual flagship event, the World Sustainable Development Summit, being held virtually under the broad theme, Redefining Our Common Future, Safe and Secure Environment for All, from 10 to 12 February 2021. This edition of the WSDS marks 20 years of the platform, and it is a matter of great pride for all of us at TERI. Speakers and delegates have been able to join us for this important milestone edition. Your support is instrumental in the success of the platform and our efforts. With this, I am delighted to welcome you all to the thematic track titled From Coast to High Seas, Exploring Solutions for a Cleaner Ocean and Sustainable Blue Economy. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to mention that all the participants of the session will be muted, so participants have the opportunity to submit their questions anytime during the session in the chat box in your control panel. We will try to bring these questions up during the session. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce to our first speaker, Mr. Hans Jacob, who is Ambassador of Norway to India. He joined Norwegian Embassy in New Delhi in September 2019 and is also a former director for UN policy at Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Policy. I now hand over the platform to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes. Dear Dr. Nayak, dear Dr. Raj.
You're live.
Dear Dr. Nayak, dear Dr. Rajavan, speakers in this session, distinguished audience and colleagues at TERI. It is my pleasure to speak in this thematic track, and I'm happy to note the session title, which implies a welcome shift from discussion about the challenges which all of us has been doing for the last couple of years to the discussion about the solutions. The ocean holds the key to meeting the need for more food, medicines, energy, and minerals for the growing population. Unfortunately, the pressures on the oceans are intense and growing. But we know recovery is possible. Putting sustainability at the heart of ocean management is essential for protection, production, and prosperity that benefits people, nature, and the economy. In December 2020, the 14 serving world leaders of the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy united to launch a new ocean action agenda and to commit to sustainable manage 100% of their national waters by 2025. The ocean panel is co-chaired by the Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg and includes member states from all continents. Each of the ocean panel members has committed to have a sustainable ocean plan in place by 2025. Ecosystem-based integrated ocean management will be the core of these plans. When completed, close to 40% of the world's coastlines and 30% of all exclusive economic zones will be covered. This will be a significant contribution to improving the sustainability of the blue economy globally. Norway's ocean management plans have served as a model for the Oceans Panel's work. Our history of sustainable ocean management did not start from a desire solely to protect the environment, but to find ways to utilizing the resources in our economic zone in a manner that didn't jeopardize our nature. We wanted to earn more money on offshore oil and gas exploration, shipping, fisheries, and agriculture without ruining the renewable resources for future generations. I would say we have largely succeeded, both in developing our ocean industries and caring for the ocean's health. Today, the Indian government is taking similar steps to better utilize the blue economy for the benefit of the nation. I want to commend Prime Minister Modi on his leadership in this regard. India has set an ambitious and important goal of phasing out single-use plastic by the year 2022. This is a welcome step for others to follow. I'm also impressed with the steps taken to receive Blue Flag certification for 8 Indian beaches, having safe and healthy bathing environment. Our collaboration has been further strengthened since Prime Minister Erna Solberg's visit to India in January 2019 and the establishment of an India-Norway Ocean Dialogue and Interministerial Task Force on the Blue Economy. 4 projects are under implementation, having focus on plastic and chemical pollution in the rivers, circular economy of municipal waste, co-processing of plastic waste, and creating awareness and encouraging people to participate in beach and river cleanup. The India-Norway initiative has also paved way for sharing of expertise on extended producer responsibility, or EPR as it is known. EPR has been hugely important to the handling of plastic waste in Norway. For a long time, Norway has implemented a deposit return scheme for plastic bottles and cans with a recycling rate of 97%. That means fewer bottles and cans ends up in the ocean, damaging marine life. Norway is proud to contribute to India's efforts towards achieving cleaner oceans and sustainable and prosperous blue economy through the India-Norway initiatives on integrated ocean management and marine pollution. Our experts, researchers, and businesses stand ready to share experiences and explore mutually beneficial opportunities. I'm glad to see that Dr. Ramana Murthy from the National Center of Coastal Research, one of our key partners, is speaking later in this session. 2 of my compatriots from Norway, Mr. Vidar Helgesen and Mrs. Nina Jensen, are speaking in the plenary session tomorrow on clean oceans and blue economy. They will offer further insights on Norwegian solutions and initiatives. Dear colleagues, science has a key role to play in finding sustainable solutions. Last week, UNESCO's Director General invited the Prime Minister Solberg to be patron of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, also called the Ocean Decade Alliance. The objective of the alliance is to form a network of leaders from governments, United Nations organizations, scientific institutions, private sector, and philanthropic organizations, among others. They will stimulate and motivate others to commit ambitious investments and efforts to advance concrete ocean
We can't hear. Is there IT administrator?
No.
Okay.
You can start.
So where did you lose track?
A minute ago.
Okay, a minute ago. Okay, then Norway is one of the largest contributors to this Ocean Decade Alliance. For Norwegian research communities, the decade will be an important arena, both for contributing internationally and for directing its own activities toward key goals for sustainable development. Dear colleagues, the last year of the COVID-19 pandemic is not only the defining global health crisis of our time, but it's much more an unprecedented socio-economic crisis. It has created devastating social, economic, and political effects as governments around the world design and implement major pandemic recovery plans. It is heartening to note the calls for a green recovery for strengthening economic, social, and environmental outcomes for everyone. I must thank the government of India at this point for a leadership role in not only effectively handling the pandemic in the country, but also for supplying vaccines to other countries. I believe the blue economy will need to play a key role in recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. In a sustainable ocean economy, effective protection, sustainable production, and equitable prosperity goes hand in hand. We are pleased to note that the Indian government is highly committed to solving the global challenges that we all face, including in the ocean space. We commend India for engaging in international dialogue on key issues, and not least for launching several important national initiatives aimed at developing the blue economy in a sustainable manner. We will hear about these from our Indian friends later during the session. Norway is proud to be a partner with India to support these endeavors. Friends, I conclude by reiterating that ocean influences all the life forms and processes on this planet. It gives us life, it feeds us, entertains us, connects us, inspires us, and powers our success. Our survival depends on the ocean, and therefore we should work sincerely towards the survival of the ocean. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be ready. I'm taking you live. Twinkle, taking you live. Live.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful welcome address and setting the context for the day. Moving forward, I just want all the guests to know that the thematic session is divided into two parts. We will now be starting with the session 1, which is on countering ocean litter, sustainable waste management. I would now like to take opportunity to introduce our chair for this session, Dr. Shailesh Nayak, who is currently working as a director at National Center for Coastal Research and distinguished scientist in the Ministry of Earth Sciences. I request you to chair the session and introduce our esteemed panel of our guests and take over the proceedings.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, 1 second. I'll give you more time. Yes.
On countering ocean litter, sustainable waste management. Ambassador Hans and distinguished panelists, we have Dr. MV Ramana Murthy, who is the director of National Center for Coastal Research in Chennai. We have Dr. Amardeep Wonder, International Waste and Marine Litter Consultant of UNEP, and Dr. Vijay Habu, Adjunct Professor at ICT. I welcome you all, and I also welcome all the participants to this very important session. Dr. Hans, Ambassador Hans has set the tone. Agree with him that the ocean, which provides us the ecosystem services and goods, such as food, livelihood, recreational opportunities, and that is for well-being of all entire humanity. However, our land-based activities related to settlement, cities, industries, and agriculture generate and release pollutant nutrients to ocean and affect coastal and marine. The major concern out of this, and I would like to mainly concentrate on plastics, which Ambassador Hans also mentioned, and India and Norway has been collaborating in this aspect, because this takes decades or even centuries to degrade. So this is one of the major concerns, how we handle the plastics. Now we find the plastics from everywhere, from land to coast to even to the deep sea. It has been estimated that the mass of land-based plastic generated is about 275 million metric tons. Of course, this data is in 2010, out of which about 4.8 to 12.8 billion metric tons enter the ocean. India, having a coastal population of about 190 million, generates about 0.34 kilograms of waste per person per day. And its contribution to plastic waste ocean is only about 0.09 to 0.24 billion metric tons per year, and it is one of the lowest in the world. Compared to this, China discharges plastic waste about 1 to 3.53 million metric ton, and it is the largest in the world. However, in India, the major issue is mismanagement of the waste. There is also ample evidence that the amount of microplastics, which is the less than 5 millimeter in diameter, are increasing in the global ocean, including into the deep sea, mainly because the breaking of mega and microplastics. The true effect of this microplastics on ocean environment and the fauna is not well understood. What we have understood is that the microplastic alter the pelagic ecosystem through introduction of the hard substrate habitat, where actually it should be very rare in the pelagic ecosystem. In addition, this particle makes excellent habitat for bacteria and algae, which are then transported along with the particles into different regions of the ocean, where they may be invasive and cause problems. It has been found that at least 1,000 different types of microbes thrive on tiny plastics, and they might pose a risk or diseases to larger animals, including invertebrates and humans. Microplastic interact with biota on an individual level. They could be ingested by the invertebrates or fishes, and which can disrupt their hormonal functioning and reproductive system, and also their liver function. The fate and transport of this kind of plastic debris is essentially governed by geophysical processes, which are wind-driven ocean mixing, and normally you find in the surface boundary layer. Thus, the plastic debris is not distributed only on the surface, but it is vertically distributed within the upper water column. So the current practice of estimating the litter based on the surface measurement is normally underestimation. Plastics are also found in the deep sea, and urgent assessment of impact of microplastic on deep fauna is also needed. How do we manage this ocean litter? The population size and the waste management system largely determine how much mass of uncaptured waste available to become plastic marine debris. It is predicted that without waste management infrastructure improvement, the cumulative quantity of plastic available to enter ocean will increase by an order of magnitude by 2025. A study has estimated that if human impacts on ocean continues as present, the decline in ocean health and services can cost global economy US $430 by 2050 and US $2 trillion per year by 2100. In India, plastic waste management rules have been formulated in 2016 and further improved in 2018 to provide a framework to regulate and manage use of plastics. The draft policy framework on India's blue economy has also addressed to the marine litter. the following aspects needs to be addressed. One of the most is the strategy to waste management. There are few areas which one is we should recycle the waste. We should also consider holding company who generate and use the plastic should bear the cost for the proper disposal. The regulations which we have has mentioned that we will phase out the single-use plastic by 2022. But we should work also towards elimination of all kinds of plastics. We should also plan to collect the waste also from beaches, which is being done now as a part of Blue Flag Beach. Also, it is better to collect this trash from rivers instead of trying to do from the open ocean. Baltimore has shown a great example how best you can collect the plastic from the river. We also need to do a lot of research and development, especially to generate knowledge on production pathways and this journey to oceans, assessment of health of ocean, and develop an health index for human ocean coupled system, which will help us to raise the public awareness, resource management, improve policy, and prioritize the scientific research. Also, we need to generate the spatial distribution of litter and study the impact of marine litter on coastal and marine ecosystem as well as on fisheries. This will help us to evaluate the trade-offs between the human use of oceans and need for protection of ecosystem. The third aspect that we should have efficient coordination between different regulation agencies, especially in India, the Urban Ministry, Environment, Earth Science, the industry, agriculture, so that we can identify the source regions and better management the human activities so that we can reduce their negative impact on ecosystem, including fish stocks. And lastly, efforts should be made to bring awareness about the harmful effects of marine litter to the communities, including the students. Thank you very much for this opportunity. May I now request Dr. Ramana Murthy to make his comments.
Thank you, sir. First of all, His Excellency, Mr. Hans Jacob, I think he has already made his opening remarks. We are going to have a meeting with Norway on 26th of this month on ocean management. That is one of the major milestones for the future, how Ministry of Earth Sciences will collaborate with the Norwegian embassy and as well as Norwegian institutes for that. And it really gives us a lot of good cooperation and then way forward for the ocean management and blue economy. Then Dr. Amardeep Vander and then Dr. Vijay Habu and then other distinguished colleagues from TERI and other speakers. I will have a short presentation instead of oral talk. I think I have already taken a permission from TERI. I just share my presentation with the permission of chair. Hope it is visible now. Sir, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
We can see it, sir.
CCR has started this work way back in 2018 in publishing a report on development of regional action plan for marine litter as a part of South Asian Cooperation for Environmental Program. And Ministry of Affairs has joined with United Nations on cleansing campaign in 2018 as a part of commitment of Government of India. Now, India's consumption is very low as on date, as told by Chairman. Now, US is in the high, and then China is also on the very high side. But India, if you can see on the right-hand side, India is not there. But we should ensure that India doesn't fall into this whole gambit of marine litter. Ministry of Earth Sciences will gauge marine litter right from its origin, fate, and transport from source to sink. Experiments are already been on, and then I will show you a few initiatives by the Ministry of Earth Sciences. We work joint collaborations with Norway, United Kingdom, and of course with Shaka. This shows the basically source of litter and plastics and how the physical process that affect transportation. As told by Dr. Shailesh Nayak, it starts with households and then goes into the landfills and then again estuaries or creeks, and also from the treatment plant some of the plastic enters into the ocean, and then of course majority of the contribution is from the beaches. When we look at the classification, we classify it as a mega, it is more than 1 meter, macro, meso, and then micro. But most interesting thing is when we have this microplastics between 1 to 5 mm, small MPs and nanoplastics. These are all the really culprits which was told by chairman. It goes into the food chain of marine organisms, and then it really affects the human health and then food chain of the whole systems for that. It can be done fibers or foam or fragments, and then there are some evidences how this will really affect on that. As told by him, I think we had defined a standard methodology for analyzing sampling and analysis, and finally estimation of microplastics in the ocean in the coastal areas for them. A systematic methodology has been already arrived by Ministry of Earth Sciences through National Center for Coastal Research. We do all density separation and then filtration and then drying. This will give us a clear indication what is the magnitude of the marine plastics impact in the ocean waters and then ecosystem. And there was a pump which was developed by UK under the UK collaboration that will be used to really estimate the microplastics in the ocean in the coastal areas. This is long-term experiments of CIFAS in UK. They have given this pump, and then we had a joint collaboration with them. When we look at some of the interesting aspects of the study using the coastal research vessels of Ministry of Earth Sciences, we sampled right from the north to south all along the coast, both in the sediment as well as in the water. As told by chairman, I think it is entire marine plastic is distributed in entire water column. This is the evidence what you can see from here. We could able to see highest microplastics in Chilaka Lake, but whereas lowest in the Pennar River. But once we come to the water, it is and the highest is in the Krishna River. The main reason for that is Krishna River is very wide, and then it brings lot of fresh water or even saline water into the sea. That is one of the major contributor of the marine plastic into the ocean. So we have used all this coastal research vessel to estimate the marine plastics in water column as well as in the sediment. Coming to the in the coastal areas within the sediment, when we start seeing for that, it is completely seasonal. Especially during 2019 March, there is a place called Buckingham Canal, which is basically a backwater that brings us lots of marine litter and plastic into the sea, basically due to the tourism activity. But on the other side, Pondicherry, it was less because there were no major river inlets which are coming into the sea. But on the other side, where in Chennai, all urbanized cities brings lot of marine plastics during the wet weather. That means whenever we have a rainfall, all the microplastics or plastics will come into the sea, and then it gets distributed in the coastal areas as well as in the deep ocean. There is a systematic methodology was developed to collect the samples in the macro, meso, and then microplastics all along the beaches. And this was already submitted a report under the International Coastal Cleanup Day on 21st September 2019, which shows across the Indian coast what is the status of marine litter along the beach. Of course, here we have used both educational institutions as well as NGOs. In fact, NGOs forms a very important part of this marine litter program if we want to combat it, the marine litter in long run. Of course, there could be a regulations from the government, but also we should take all stakeholders into the on board so that we can combat marine litter or marine plastic further. When we look at traps, low-cost floating traps, which was there, and some of the data it was done by Alpamaris, and then this data has been analyzed by them. But on the right-hand side, what I'm showing is what is the composition of different plastics which was collected by NCCR along that, right from the food wrappers to cups and papers and all. This will really give us an indication how do we control the source once we know what is its impact on the coastal areas? Of course, we have done a lot of modeling work, how it distributes in the coastal areas in the ocean, and how it affects the biota, and how it affects in the deep sea of the biota, and then finally in the beach litter in the Lakshadweep islands. They are very pristine, and then these islands are also impacted by the not only by the local generation but also from the international waters. That's why we need to have a regional cooperation if you want to really minimize the microplastic problem. What could be the recommendations? One is segregation of the waste at the source itself. The focus should be mostly on the single-use plastics, but as told by chairman, I think we should also see other elements also to be reduced on that. Responsibility should be there from the manufacturer. I think EPR is one of the concepts which was already circulated by TERI on that. That will really bring down the plastic to the system for that. Adaptation of the beaches, which was talked about by blue flag beaches or something on that, that will reduce the marine litter, and deployment of low-cost traps in the creeks. So it will not allow the plastics to go into the ocean and then contaminate the ecosystem for that. Finally, we use introduction of biodegradable materials instead of plastic. We have been using so many methods on the past. Why not we go back to the old situation and then see if suppose our ecosystem is going to be disturbed with the plastic, better to adapt a proper technology where plastic is reduced on that. We need to have a national marine litter policy, which is on the way. First notification on 2016 on marine plastic, then 2018. Last week, there was another circular from the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change to further amend it on the plastic waste rules for that. But of course, a lot more to be done. Also exploring the possibilities and benefits in shifting to circular plastic economy, which was talked about by Norway and then many other countries for that. When we come to the takeaway message from that, the only way to reduce is shift in the public attitude, switch over to organic and renewable resources, and then shift in the design in terms of circular economy, resource, manufacture, consumption, and then recycle. And finally, most important one is awareness in terms of research and education. That is very important for the waste management of the plastic. With these things, few slides, I think I thank Chairman and then the TERI for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raman Murthy, and focusing on the spatial distribution as well as source and the marine litter policy, which is likely to come. Thank you very much for your intervention. May I now request Dr. Raman Murthy to make his intervention.
Distinguished speakers, His Excellency Mr. Hans Jacob, Dr. Nayak, Dr. Murthy, Dr. Habu, guests and organizing staff from TERI, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share some thoughts at this meeting today.
Can you hold for some time? We'll just give a cue. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start again. Distinguished speakers, His Excellency Mr. Hans Jacob, Dr. Nayak, Dr. Murthy, Dr. Habu, guests and organizing staff from TERI. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening from Australia. And thank you very much for the opportunity to share some thoughts today. I'm delighted to be able to share some of my recent experiences on countering ocean litter through sustainable waste management. And I'm also encouraged by the focus of today's session on solutions. Having had the privilege to work with a number of international organizations in almost 20 countries in Asia, the Pacific, Australia, Africa, Caribbean, and in Central America over the last decade on tackling land-based sources of pollution to reduce ocean litter, a large majority of which is plastic, and having seen firsthand the impacts that land-based pollution has on the ocean economy, from Ballina to Belize, there are 4 key themes that have emerged, and I would like to highlight those today. The first is data. Good data, I believe, is the backbone of good decision making. So it is fantastic to have Dr. Murthy's presentation just before mine, highlighting all the work that has been done on collecting good data. Someone very wise once said, you cannot manage what you can't measure. Sound and robust data allow for an accurate estimation of the current situation. They help inform good policy, decisions around infrastructure, as well as our ability to pinpoint.
I'm sorry to intervene, but is it?
Shall I start again? Plastic. And to many, the complete elimination looks like success. But to me, a 50% reduction in single-use plastic is also success. And any progress towards this target should just be, as importantly, celebrated and learned from. We cannot measure this without good data. Good policy also takes time to be implemented, and all successes along the way need to be encouraged and improved. The second thing that I'd like to talk about today is the important role played by design. And in saying so, I mean designing material for recyclability. And this has to be done through engagement with manufacturing, import sector, as well as the packaging sector. It is important to design out materials that cannot be recycled or managed. And once again, single-use plastics are a good example. When I talk about designing out materials like single-use plastics, I believe that the impacts have to be seriously considered prior to taking extensive action. Hence the need to work closely with stakeholders. And I once again referenced Dr. Murthy when he mentioned the NGO sector. I believe there is a number of stakeholders that are very important, and the manufacturing and packaging sector. So my favorite example, once again, are sachets: shampoo, conditioner, salt, or oil. And these sachets make some of the simple luxury of life that a lot of us take for granted available to a vast majority of the population that cannot possibly afford to buy a liter of a shampoo, but because that may represent a month's wage for many. So while design for recyclability is important, it's also important to ensure that we do not impact those who are most marginal in our community while doing so. A simple answer, which Mr. Muth again mentioned, would be to design a compostable sachet. But would such a sachet stand up to the high standards required for transport, logistics, and quality? And that's where my third point, innovation. With a very large young population that is tech savvy, India has a unique opportunity to design solutions that not only appeal to the youth, but also stand the test of time. Education around the appropriate use and disposal of materials has long been a problem. Just providing infrastructure or alternative designs, people have to be empowered and educated in India. And this is where technology can come in. And India actually has potential to lead the world. My final point is around infrastructure, and it goes back to my data. Good data helps design infrastructure that fits purpose and scope. India, with its large population and cities that vary greatly, may not always need the very fancy highly automated solutions, but rather we need systems that everyone in every corner of the country has access to and provide waste management infrastructure in the process. And there is a potential to generate a rather large number of jobs in India by doing so. Finally, I'd like to close by saying that waste, pollutions, and oceans aren't motive issues. They impact everyone, every day. And by having conversations like the one we're having today, hopefully we're creating the beginning of key partnerships and laying the foundation for a healthy ocean that will be there for generations. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amardeep, for some of your experience-based and the kind of advice onto solution-based research. I think it's very important for the India, and thank you very much. Thank you. May I now request Dr. Vijay Habu to make his intervention?
Twinkle, I'll wait until I get a cue, or shall I start right away? And the session chairman, Dr. Nayak, my fellow panelists, Dr. Ramana Murthy, Dr. Amardeep Vander, and to Twinkle Dev, who's been able to manage to keep a straight face despite all the glitches. So I would just like to, the disadvantage of being the last speaker is that there are chances of, being repetitive in all that thing, but that is a kind of hazard that one has to accept. I would begin by saying that any waste problem of this kind, of this nature, of this magnitude has a triad. And there are three apexes to this triangle. One is the society, one is the government, and the industry, each of which is a complex entity. Society is not a simple thing because it comprises citizens, NGOs, housing complexes. Government isn't a single body. In India, particularly, we have a central government, a state government, local bodies, district administrations. And in industry, it's not a monolithic structure because in the one stream of industry, you have resin producers, plastic manufacturers, converters. And in the second stream are the users, namely retail suppliers, brand owners, and the unorganized sector. So we are dealing with a very complex situation. And before I take the plunge, I would just like to say that while India, much is talked about in the Plastic Waste Management 2016, it wasn't the first regulation that has come. India has been struggling to deal with plastic pollution since 1996. Then came 2011, and 2016 is the later version of that thing, which because of the global attention is being talked about. But it isn't as if, India has awakened to plastic waste management only in 2016. Much has been done much before that. Yet the reason we have not been successful, and I did hear the talk about the statistics of per capita consumption being just 12 kg per person per year, being lower than the world average and much, much lower than the US. But that shouldn't give us a comfort, as any kind of waste is really a waste and it is harming the nature and the economy in direct and indirect ways. So of the triad, I go back to the triad and then discuss what the industry needs to be doing, because it's the industry that generates or produces the plastics. So while there could be different opinions, my opinion is that industry should focus on staying on design, because while design for circularity and design, much of the avenues to deal with the waste, such as mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, repurposing, like waste to road or waste to fuel, etc. All of these, in my opinion, are lesser of a technical challenges than what begins as design for collection. Because until you collect the waste, all of the rest of the things is just remains an academic discussion and for a public forum to get applauses. The the thing will not get successful unless you design for collection, and that this is where industry needs to come in and talk about harmonization for packaging formats. The complexity of packaging formats that one has, take the examples of potato chips. There are 20 brands around and each brand has a different complex design of a packaging. That makes it very difficult to collect and then for recycling. The other onus of industry is to engage with the local bodies for recycling technologies. Merely pumping in money and all, I don't think any local body, whether in India or abroad, is capable of understanding plastics and designing a proper recycling system. Therefore, people who design these formats and use these packaging formats, and I talk about packaging because that constitutes about 40 to 45% of the plastic litter. So therefore, industry needs to engage in a different format, and the conversations such as this also should not just focus on just talking about costs and these kinds of things. It's the software and the intellectual input that also needs to be provided in the cities and the local management. I would like to move to another area where industry needs to focus on, and again, when I say industry, it's also conversations such as this. We should stay away from deceptive promises, such as biodegradable plastics. It's the worst kind of thing, and this kind of thing happens because in these conversations, I find that there aren't enough polymer scientists who are engaged in these conversations. We have other scientists and other specialists, but they kind of tend to miss the wood for the trees. Biodegradable and compostable plastics, if they are that kind of attribute is brought through the use of additives, is the worst thing you could do to plastic litter because they will affect the existing recycling chain. They will induce a false sense of now I don't need to care about littering and everything. So the behavioral change, it takes it in the wrong direction. Biodegradable plastics or compostable plastics need dedicated treatment facilities. They also need to be segregated from virgin plastics. And therefore, the littering tendency would remain unmitigated. And then there is this question of microplastics. Would these additives enhance the tendency to form microplastics? Not enough studies have been done. Speaking of microplastics, I find a lot of alarmist conversation happening. I would just like to leave that without dwelling on it too much. I would just like to leave this thought here. Plastics have been around with this kind of intense use for the past 50, 60 years. So the formation of microplastics, and without doubting that thing, has been happening for 50, 60 years, a long enough duration to examine and to come to a conclusion. While any foreign body in the body is not a welcome thing, that is true. But has it caused any harm? Because if it would have had to cause a harm, it would have done so in the past 60 years of its generation. Because microplastics, because we are talking of marine litter and plastic waste management in 2016-18, doesn't mean that the formation has happened in 2016 and 18. The formation of microplastics has been happening for the past 50, 60 years, ever since plastics came into our lives with the same kind of intensity that we are now talking about. So while there is a cause for concern and need to mitigate it, I don't think there is much can be done because it's a material property and that cannot be wished away. So we need to kind of look into whether this is causing any harm. I would like to move to my last point is the language of governance, which we tend to be missing in the dealing with plastic waste management. A lot of buzzwords keep coming from time to time, and they are good. Each of these do have some merits, such as the circular economy. Presently, that is being touted. It's a good model to ensure recovering or the prevention of leakage of plastics into undesired places. That is a good model, no doubt about it. But is it an only model? Is it a universal model? For example, should it prevent other models, for example, for example, cascading economy model? This kind of overemphasis on a certain economy model causes harm in terms of where other models existing. For example, in India, the PET bottles are very nicely converted. 90% of the PET bottles are recovered and converted into these kinds of textile garments, the one that I'm wearing for this Modi jacket and other such kind of exemplary apparel. Now, that is converting a PET bottle, that is a packaging, into a textile garment. Now, it wouldn't kind of fit into the classical definition of circular economy. So would it be right for multinationals to keep on harping converting PET bottles back into PET bottles for food packaging applications. There need not be this kind of disruption, at least for India, because the model of converting PET bottles into something useful, textiles, which are a basic human needs, they are getting fulfilled in any case. And that is prolonging the littering of PET bottles into the ocean by converting into something useful. So therefore, just denigrating the conversion of bottles to fibers, because somewhere else in the world, bottle to bottle is a preferred conversion, is going to kind of cause harms in societies, socio-economic structures such as India. Another aspect of language of governance is the measurement of entire life cycle. For example, eco footprints. This is another buzzword, and it's a correct word. What tends to happening is a lot of companies are saying that we want to lightweight the plastic materials, but in so doing, we are ignoring the fact that the life cycle has to be measured across 3 phases. One is the eco footprint during the manufacture, eco footprint during the usage, and eco footprint during post usage. Using lightweighting materials, plastic materials, or making them small, what it does is it definitely gives you a benefit on the extraction or reduced extraction of fossil-based raw materials. That indeed is the case. But concomitant to that, what it does is it harms you during the post-usage phase, such as collection of littered plastics then becomes extremely difficult with lightweight materials and smaller materials. So what you earn by good reduction in fossil-based, you lose by lower collection. So these are the kind of things which we need to be aware of in the language of governance in the management of plastics waste. I stop here because of the time is up, but would be happy to take this conversation further in the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, sir.
For highlighting. Thank you very much for your major points on the role of industry and the economic model which we should have. I think it's very useful. We have not much time left. There is only one question, as I know. The question is, can cities approach corporates to intervene and contribute to set up waste management infrastructure? By Mr. Ramasagar. Mr. Abu, we would like to take up this question.
Yes, indeed. As I said, plastic waste management is not a problem which can be handled by one company or one industry. It has several aspects, and there are certain aspects which probably people will not realize. Do we know that waste on the streets is a property of the municipalities? So if any company tries to manage the waste without the permissions, they would actually be kind of falling foul of the law. So therefore, it is not an easy thing to say that, and it is here that which is why I said that corporates at the most can be asked to fund the collection drives of the municipalities or the local bodies, and more importantly, help and educate the local bodies in how to recycle each plastic format, because not all plastics can be recycled the same way. So therefore, asking or expecting only the corporates to do that would be a tall order. It will not work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have any closing remarks because time is. I would request Pandey to make.
Thank you very much, sir. And I also thank Ambassador Frydenlund for opening the session with providing the theme for discussion and also briefing about India-Norway cooperation on dealing with ocean health, and not only ocean health, but also the ocean litter issue, of which almost all the panelists agreed that plastic is a main constituent which is causing litter, which is of the litter problem. And we also dwelt on issues like, we also agreed on that the land-based pollution is the one which is causing maximum problem if we consider marine litter issue. And better waste management on land, a lot can be done to impact marine litter issue. Also, interesting concepts were given in terms of design for recycling, design for not only recycling, but also design which facilitates easy collection, as was mentioned by Dr. Habbu, and also design for products so that circular economy in terms of plastics can be easily practiced. We are also, important aspect by our chairman was mentioned that while monitoring, you need to have a robust monitoring protocol. Mere surface monitoring of plastics in marine water or river water systems will not help, which was also demonstrated by Dr. Ramana Murthy while discussing protocol which is developed by NCCR. And also interesting results in terms of monitoring in various river systems and importance of tracking litter, not only tracking but trapping litter at the river head before these rivers finally meet seas through the coastal systems. And I'm sure these are kind of important thoughts which we would like to take ahead in the discussions which will happen tomorrow in the plenary session. Since time is not much, I'll not try to extend more. Thank you very much, sirs, for interesting panel discussion, and also Ambassador Frydenlund for providing the opening remarks for the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for joining for this session, and we will now be starting with the session 2 on blue economy, India's road to a greener future. I would now like to take the opportunity to introduce our chair for this session, Dr. M.A. Atmanand, who is currently a visiting faculty at Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai. I would now request you to chair the session and introduce our esteemed panel of guests and take over the proceedings.
Thank you very much. Trust that I am audible, is it not? Can I go ahead now?
You can, sir. We can hear
Sir.
you.
Okay, fine.
I don't know if they're streaming you live. Probably you'll have to wait a few moments. Organizers, are we streaming this live? Actually, chair of the session needs to be live, Dr. Atmanand.
Come in, please.
Yes, can I start or I have to wait? Very much. Respected Mr. Hans Jacob Frydenlund, Ambassador of Norway to India, Dr. Shailesh Nayak, Director, National Institute of Advanced Studies, other panelists, and ladies and gentlemen watching this online. I'm happy to be here to chair this session. Let me just start with the report of Blue Economy Working Group on National Accounting Framework and Ocean Governance by the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India, which provides a working definition of blue economy, as blue economy refers to exploring and optimizing the potential of the oceans and seas which are under India's legal jurisdiction for socio-economic development while preserving the health of the oceans. I was privileged to be part of this working group, the one for deep sea resources like manganese nodules and renewable ocean energy under the chairmanship of Dr. Shailesh Nayak. United Nations visualized the need to protect the oceans from the problems created by humans in the past century. UN declared 2021 to 2030 as UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainability. the science we need for the ocean we want. We heard this from His Excellency the Ambassador a few minutes back. The decade will provide a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create a new foundation across the science policy interface to strengthen the management of our oceans and coasts for the benefit of humanity. I could be part of the executive planning group for formulating the planning of the ocean decade. Through stronger international cooperation, the decade will bolster scientific research and innovative technologies to ensure science responds to the needs of society, which has been identified as the following 7 areas. A clean ocean where sources of pollution are identified and removed. A healthy and resilient ocean where marine ecosystems are mapped and protected. A predictable ocean where society has the capacity to understand current and future ocean conditions. A safe ocean where people are protected from ocean hazards. A sustainably harvested ocean ensuring the provision of food supply. A transparent ocean with open access to data, information, and technologies. An inspiring and engaging ocean where society understands and values the ocean. When we talk about blue economy, all the above factors are to be considered one way or the other, sustainability being the key. Some key sectors that could significantly contribute to sustainable development while contributing to economic growth in India are fisheries and coastal tourism. Both sectors, unfortunately, has been affected by the current pandemic. However, both sectors are critical and to achieve the blue economy aspirations of India. India is the second largest aquaculture fish producer in the world and contributes about 7% of the global fish production. The country is also home to more than 10% of the global fish biodiversity and is one of the 17 mega biodiversity rich countries. Overfishing, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing practices are leading to significant stresses on the largely artisanal fishing in the country. The travel and tourism sector in India accounted for 9.3% of the total employment opportunities generated in the country in 2016, providing employment to about 40.3 million people during the same year. India's 8 beaches across 5 states and 2 union territories have been awarded the prestigious Blue Tag certification also. Blue Flag is one of the world's most recognized voluntary award for beaches, marinas, and sustainable boating tourism operators, and it is a representation of India's conservation and sustainable development efforts in the coastal regions. Coastal tourism is one of major areas that India would like to develop and enhance under the blue economy framework, yet the current coastal tourism in the country is largely focused on leisure tourism. Ecotourism will provide significant revenues to the country, and these revenues are critical for conservation efforts. Apart from these sectors, the following sectors need serious consideration. Ports and harbour, which accounts for large economic growth linked to the Sagarmala project. Renewable ocean energy like offshore wind, ocean thermal energy conversion, ocean current, extraction of rare earths from placer minerals in the beach, marine spatial planning which enhances tourist potential, shore protection to protect the beaches which are getting eroded, to name a few. Today we have a panel of eminent personalities who I am sure will enlighten us with their vision on blue economy. We have the first speaker, Dr. C.N. Ravishankar from the Central Institute of Fisheries Technology. We have Professor V.N. Atri, Chair in Indian Ocean Studies of IORA. We have Captain Sarabjit S. Parmar, Executive Director of National Maritime Foundation. And we have Mrs. Jonna Simblista, Quality and Sustainability Compliance Manager from IKEA Purchasing. We will also have an effective interactive session with the participants later on. Thank you very much. I would now request Dr. C.N. Ravishankar to take the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Am I audible? Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Most respected Chair, Dr. Atmanan, Dr. Nayak, the respected Ambassador, and all the distinguished panelists. First of all, I would like to thank Team TERI for giving an opportunity for sharing our experience through this virtual platform, which is a very important event which TERI has taken, and also CAFT has been in part of this in the past earlier programs also. So I'd like to thank TERI for this opportunity. And just for the information of our Honorable Ambassador, CAFT is closely working with SINTEF, Norway, and NTNU. Okay, so we are working in a lot of areas. So I thought I'll just share that with you because you have joined the program. I would like to apologize to Dr. Atri because I've jumped the gun. I requested them that I should speak first because I have a meeting at 3 o'clock. Sorry about that. I'm talking about my institute CAFT. We work on harvest and post-harvest. We have been taking part in many meetings of the IORA. So I think a lot of people who are there today, they are familiar with the CAFT. So we work in the craft and the gear in the case of harvest. Coming to the post-harvest, we work on value addition, appropriate processing, preservation technologies, and we especially work on conservation of the marine resources. Okay, so we develop bycatch reduction devices, the juvenile reduction devices, so that we can have sustainability of our marine resources. And thanks to Dr. Atmanand, he gave a very brief introduction to the topic of blue economy. And Sir Dr. Atmanand, I would like to tell you, sir, that I was also part of the same initiative of the PMO, the blue economy. Our thing was on the aquaculture and other related aspects, chaired by Dr. George John. So I was also part of the committee, so which we were also part of the the whole document. As you know, fish is the cheapest source of animal protein, and it provides over 20% of animal protein to 2.6 million people globally, which amounts to more than 30% in developing countries. And considering the nutrients found only in animal-based foods such as vitamin B12, the DHA, EPA, omega-3 fatty acids, the decline in fish catch could endanger nearly 1.3 billion people worldwide. So India stands sixth in the global marine fish production, which is, and also a prominent exporter. We export to the tune of nearly $7 billion. Then the country stands second in the aquaculture production. I think Dr. Atmanan touched upon that also. Compared to the capture fisheries, now India is doing very well in the culture fisheries. So we are giving a lot of impetus on aquaculture, so which is the mainstay of the country. And if you see the last year, the GVA, the gross value added from the fisheries sector was to the 2.12 lakh crores. And we are contributing to 1.12% to the national GDP and nearly above 7% to the agriculture GDP. And the sector has seen an overall growth rate of 10.8%, which is higher than growth of the national economy. So that's a very welcoming sign. So keeping that in view, the government is giving a lot of impetus. They started a new ministry in fisheries, and we have a department. And I'm happy to tell you the Honorable Prime Minister has launched a new program called Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, through which the lot of input, the impetus and the a lot of scope is given to the development of fisheries, which is the sunrise sector of the country. And if you're seeing the fisheries as such, marine resources are basically captured by many different types of gears. Earlier we were focusing on catching more, but now we are talking of conservation, we are talking of sustainability. Okay, so that's where the CAFT is very closely working with. So the bulk of the catches, the majority of the marine catches are landed by the mechanized vessel, but there are a lot of traditional vessels also. And the motorized sector contribute to nearly 17% of the total catch and employs nearly 62% of the fishermen. And if you're talking of the yield, we are catching the near shore waters, but I think we need to focus more on the open deep sea resources, for which again CAFT is developing the basic designs and working with the Cochin shipyard for under the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana for the Blue Revolution scheme. We are giving the designs for the deep sea fishing vessels so that we can start tapping the untapped resources and give less focus on already overexploited resources. And a lot of people depend on this, the whole fisheries as such. And if you really see, we have a projection of we need 18 million metric tons of fish by 2030. That is a requirement in order to meet the, address the issue of food security, the nutritional security, for which aquatic products play a major role. And it is estimated that there are about 3 times more vessels. That's what we are talking about, the overcapacity in fishing. Okay. So I think that needs a real concern for the country. So if I am talking about the major concerns, the near shore marine fisheries sector is facing host of problems. So one is the overcapacity of fishing fleets, declining catch rates and catch per unit effort, and many species are the stocks are depleting, and the decreasing average size of the major commercial species, which were the major stay for the country, and changes in the species composition, then habitat degradation, the marine pollution, the coastal pollution, inefficient management systems, and Dr. Atmanan spoke about the rich biodiversity, but we are having a concern of declining the biodiversity, especially in the coastal areas, and the climate change is again having a major impact. So when I was talking about what are the measures to be taken, if you are talking of the controlling of the effort, fishing effort, CAFT has been giving guidance to the states in order to maximize the size of the vessels and the engine power. So that we are putting a cap and phasing out of the vessels in a structured way. So there needs to be a policy by the state, because in the country fisheries is a state subject. Okay, the central government only gives guidelines, but the implementation part is depending on the states. So that's where we are working very closely with all the maritime states. So strict implementation of the guidelines regarding the LOA and engine capacity of the vessels, and also adherence to the MFRA in different states. And when I'm talking of responsible fishing technologies, large number of technologies CAFT has been developing, like bycatch reduction devices, and reducing the impact of bottom trawling, because bottom trawling is a major fishing technique which is used in the country. That is affecting the whole ecosystem. So that's where now we are giving technology for reducing that impact. And also we have introduced the square mesh. Okay, square mesh will definitely allow the escape of juveniles. So that will put less pressure on the stocks, future stocks. This has been already, implemented by states like Kerala, Gujarat, Maharashtra. Other states are following up. And also we are fixing up an optimum mesh size and different gear designs so that we have sustainability of the future catches. And again, I told you off bottom trawls we are introducing instead of having bottom trawls. And we are also talking about energy efficiency. That's what is another major concern in the whole fishing industry. So we are introducing fuel efficient designs, and we are talking of green technology. In that, I would like to mention to the Honorable, the Ambassador, that with NTNU and SINTEF, we are now taking up a project of introducing carbon dioxide based refrigeration system, which is more eco-friendly, green technology. Okay. So when you're talking of the green technologies, we have introduced fuel efficient fishing boats, and we are also introducing combination fishing technologies, and we are also introducing solar based boats, especially for inland aquaculture.
Dr. Ravishankar, I'm sorry to intervene. The time is slightly.
I'll be closing now. Okay. In addition to that, my final remark would be we should strengthen monitoring, control, and surveillance program. by mandatory licensing of the fishing vessels, issuing fishing licenses, and compulsory vessel monitoring system. So these are all the things which we must take lead. And also because we have a lot of shared stock, we should be working with other international agencies so that our stocks and our fisheries is becoming sustainable. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Sorry for taking a few more minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi Shankar, for covering this very specific area of sustainability in fishing and the requirement of 18 million metric tons by 2030 and the overcapacity of the vessels which you are trying to overcome through the having new deep sea vessels through the Cochin shipyard. I mean, that's a good initiative. Thank you very much. Now we will move on to Professor Atri. Atri is online. You are muted, Professor Atri. You are muted.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I would be starting from the IORA perspective and then coming to the blue economy potential for India. If I take back to 9th November 2014, and it was the COM meeting at Perth in Australia, when all the IORA countries had adopted blue economy as a next economic paradigm for bringing economic and social prosperity in the Indian Ocean region. So that was the beginning for all the 22 countries of IORA. Now the member states are 23. France has become the 23rd full member states of IORA, which adopted this blue economy. Then I won't go into the detail of the various meetings, whether it is the expert meeting, core group meetings, and all that, which have been carried by IORA for popularizing and committing to the blue economy in the region. And I just would say that on 5th and 6th December 2019, the first meeting of the working group of blue economy was have taken place in Mauritius, and that working group on blue economy identified 20 thematic area in which marine pollution is one of them, and other are the other related sectors of the blue economy such as fisheries, aquaculture, port and shipping, and renewable ocean energies, tourism, etc. Because IORA basically identified 8 sectors under the blue economy, and thus all the 23 member states of IORA are committed to the blue economy. Now, basically, our seas and oceans are very important for us. They play a very important role in terms of food, in terms of tourism, for transport and renewable energy, sources of rich biodiversity and valuable ecosystem services. But oceans are also facing several environmental challenges. So that is basically is the thing. And another thing which is very important regarding some of the trends which are appearing on the high sea, which is more than 60% of the total ocean. And I was searching the major trends during the last 3 years, that is 2018 to 2021. One trend which is emerging in the high ocean, from coastal to high ocean, that is basically the increasing use of technology, that is IR 4.0. So in that context, my observation is that India can play a very important role in terms of a leader in science and technology, becoming is one of the most important country. So IR4, that is the accelerated technological development, development can play a big role in increasing the sustainable blue economy in the Indian Ocean region as well across the countries. So the other thing is that unmanned underwater vehicle is having a vast potential, and the market for this UUV is estimated to be $5.2 billion by 2022. Then another thing is the technology has the potential to solve the ocean problems, and that is basically there is new wave of innovations are taking place in engineering and the technology that will help to find out the solutions. The another thing which is very important, that is still 95% of the ocean surface is unexplored and unexploited, and that basically we have to take into account. And then basically another thing is deep ocean is very mysterious, and science basically can play a very big role. Here, I would like to make a reference to the UN Ocean Decade, which is beginning in 2021 till 2030, which can play a very important role in in achieving the Sustainable Development Goal. The another thing is that basically the sustainable blue economy has a potential to make India a $10 trillion economy by the 2030, when the size of the global economy is expected to double from 1.5 trillion to $3 trillion. At present, the size of the global ocean economy is estimated to be 2.5 trillion, something between 2 to 2.5 trillion US dollar. So another thing basically which is important, I was also a part of the Prime Minister Economic Advisory Council, which published 7 volumes, and I was a member of 2 of the committees. So basically, there is a big potential for India to achieve double-digit growth rate in the coastal areas, that is in the 9 states of the India, and that basically is to be achieved by focusing on aquaculture and fisheries, then basically the port and shipping, and then basically there is a potential for India to be strong domestically as well as internationally by following this Sagar and Sagarmala, the vision of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that is basically the time has come to use the blue diplomacy for strengthening its position across the globe. Then another thing is basically, which is very important, that recently India has added its capacity to enhance the marine scientific research. So basically the blue economy has also been defined, the marine economy. And one of the implications of that is that India should focus on the marine scientific research programs in collaboration with other countries, such as Norway is playing a very important role. And if we go to the Sustainable Development Goal, UN Sustainable Development Goal, then India basically can achieve the Sustainable Development Goal because they are integrated, interlinked, interconnected by focusing on goal number 13 as well as goal 7. And along with the goal 17, that is building fruitful partnerships with the other international organizations and countries to strengthen the sustainable blue economy development across the world. So in that way, basically, what are the recommendations, or what basically then I can make a reference to the union budget, which was presented in last February 1st, 2020 and February 2021. So there basically the finance minister committed to the blue revolution, and the budgetary provisions in comparison to budget 2021 to 21-22 has been almost increased by 34%, and there is a big
Professor
potential.
Atri, excuse me, we have to kindly wind up because the time constraint. Sorry for that.
Okay. So that is basically, we are doubling the fisheries and aquaculture, which is crucial for generating employment in India. So in that case, what is required? That is basically, we need to adopt a comprehensive and systematic approach for strengthening the blue economy in India, so that India can achieve higher growth rate as well as employment generation, and can lead the rest of the world also by sharing its experiences, best practices to the rest of the IORA countries. So that is basically the take, is that the potential for India through blue economy is tremendous, and India is on the right path to explore those potentials by making a comprehensive blue economy strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Atri, for an excellent coverage of blue economy, indicating the need for technology from the coast to the deep sea, and about unmanned vehicles and the unexplored oceans, which will form a part of the UN Decade of Ocean Science. And aquaculture and Sagarmala are to be taken up very seriously, and the blue economy will definitely enhance the growth rate in India. Thank you very much for the presentation, Professor Atri. Now we will move on to our next panelist. We have Captain Sarabjit S. Paramar, Executive Director of National Maritime Foundation. Over to you, Captain Paramar.
Thank you, sir. Can you I must thank TERI and Swati for inviting me for a short burst on India's future and blue economy. And a lot has been said and done, so I'll just quickly run through a few important issues that I think need to be looked at. And one is that when you look at the 17 SDGs, and we mostly look at 14 insofar as blue economy is concerned, which is life below water, but all 17 goals are important in order to achieve a blue economy. And to give you an example, and here we in National Maritime Foundation differ a little with the general definition of blue economy. Give you an example, if we have, say, an industry in the center of India, miles away from the coast, with a factory that manufactures stuff for which raw material comes from abroad by a ship, it's dependent on the ocean, and the product itself is exported again by ship. So you have the link with the oceans. But more importantly, the pollutants that come out of the factory find their way into the rivers and the earth, and therefore in some fashion come and pollute the ocean. So there's an intrinsic link with even landlocked nations and centrally located industry and economical infrastructure with the oceans. And hence, that's why we like to stress that blue economy for a country like India would be the whole economy of the nation. And I will explain that in a while we go ahead. But we must remember that in order to maximize human benefits and well-being from blue economy, we must ensure and balance equally that we do not compromise on the ocean health. And a lot has been said about pollution. And yesterday I saw a photograph which was doing the rounds of a seagull with a face mask, courtesy COVID, around its neck. So this is something that has actually added to pollution, and it's something that we should carefully look at, especially the manner in which plastic is being disposed of, like, for example, after certain RT-PCR tests and all are done. So this is going to add to a pollution problem. So in this case, I'd like to bring you on to a fact where actually this is how to show this slide. So I'll just put it on the side here, is that if you can see this, this is a fire triangle. If you remove one of the elements of oxygen, heat, and fuel, the fire will die out. But so in this case out here, what we need to do is we need to look at three elements, that is government, society, and science. And therefore, to optimize human benefits and well-being without ocean health, we need to look at, say, when we look at government, we're looking at the decision makers, if you can follow the marker here. And when society, it is stakeholders, where you look at the economy, the social setup, and the ecosystem. And under science is researchers, reviewers, and planners. To make it even more comprehensive, we need to mind the 5 Ps, where you have people, peace, prosperity, partnership, and the planet. And the lines below each of them, I think, very clearly indicate that what we need to do when we look at, say, the blue economy. And that is part and parcel of all national interests that the world has. But more importantly, we need to look at certain focus areas insofar as cooperation and collaboration is concerned. A lot has been said and done about fisheries and agriculture, but there are so many other issues that we can look at. So if you follow the cursor from the top, you have seaports and shipping. You need to augment that, because as I said, if our economy is going to be ocean-based, it's going to be dependent on the oceans, and the figure of 93% dependency on the oceans insofar as India is concerned stands out loud and clear, then we need to look at this. We need to look at blue energy, tidal barrage, wave energy, OTEC or ocean thermal energy conversion, fishery and agriculture, enough has been said, and then marine coastal cruise tourism. We start looking at this, then of course COVID at some time will end, and therefore the focus will again come back to tourism. In any case, when you look at most of the cities in India, especially coastal areas, tourism has started picking up slowly. People have started moving out. Then you have ocean cluster knowledge, shallow water mining, deep sea mining. Now, this is an issue, like as was mentioned by my the preceding speaker, about UUVs. Deep sea mining is going to gain traction, especially since nations have got deep sea bed mining areas in the ocean. We still do not know what are the ramifications once nations are permitted to exploit the minerals which are available in the deep sea. We don't know what effect it will have on not only on the ecosystem down below, what effect it's going to have, say, on the topography of ocean seabed, plus pollution and so many other issues. Will it add to the issue of, say, natural disasters? We have no ideas yet. Then you have blue biotechnology, gene sequencing technologies, and inland waterways. In a country like India, this is very important, and we've seen the way in which inland waterways have been developed. We need to link these inland waterways to the oceans, and therefore it goes back to my argument that when we look at blue economy, it is going to be the whole economy of the nation per se. So what are the advantages of collaboration and cooperation? And if we are going to look at India and the future of blue economy, we need to look regional, we need to look global. We need to look at neighborhood first, we need to look west, we got to look at Act East, we got to even look at our Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which can be clubbed with Sagar as the overall development theme. And so therefore, advantages are that you're going to enhance connection with other national economies. And one example I can give you here is BIMSTEC. You see the way in which BIMSTEC has moved forward. It has made the Bay of Bengal a very stable and a secure area out within the Indian Ocean region. There's going to be national prosperity. It's going to boost coastal and national economy. And that's what we're looking at. It will increase employment. And with employment, we need to promote entrepreneurship. There are so many untapped potential, especially in India, where entrepreneurship has to be encouraged, and that is what the government is also doing, where it promotes entrepreneurship, and we need to give them access to blue economy and get them into the main grid. There has to be measured exploitation, as I said, the untapped potential of the oceans, but we need to have sustainable development. More importantly than that is to ensure that we do it safely and we do it properly, and we do not make the mistakes we made on land when we sort of, if I can use the word, went berserk into mining and cutting of trees, etc. It can also help in climate change mitigation, which is linked with the above point out there. More importantly, regional sustainable development. Nations in a region, especially Indian Ocean region, we have varying economies, you have varying potential, varying capacities and capabilities. If you want to develop a regional blue economy, everybody has to come together, which means that we have to share our core competencies, we have to share knowledge, and we have to ensure that everybody moves together. Otherwise, the whole concept of blue economy will remain national, and therefore we may not accrue the necessary advantages which we have. So what is the way ahead? When you look at India, or even say for that matter, a democratic nation, you are going to have 14 to 15 agencies, ministries who look at anything which is linked to blue economy. If you start listing down in India itself, you will easily come across 14, 15 offices and ministries that look at it. So what do we need? We need to create requisite policies, set clear, measurable and consistent goals and targets, which means people have to speak to each other. Create a level economic and legislative playing field for neighbors and stakeholders. We need to get legislation in place to ensure that everything is created equally, there's an equal opportunity, and it goes back to the advantages which I had mentioned earlier, that we need to develop as a nation together. Develop and apply standard guidelines and best practices. We need to talk to each other. We need to apply standards, borrow from our neighbors, export our ideas to our neighbors and say, this is what we need to do to grow together. Plan, manage, and effectively govern the use of marine space and resources, the ecosystem approach. As I said, we need to balance our well-being and ocean health and development. And then only if you have that balance in place and the seesaw is level, we'll be able to move forward. Interlink maritime and land-based developments, as is threats to marine environment originate on land. I've given you the example of a landlocked infrastructure industry, which would create pollution, which will lead to the ocean. So we need to interlink this. We cannot have
Captain Sarabjit, I'm sorry to intervene. You have to kindly wind up. Sorry.
Last slide, sir. Thank you. And therefore, you need to foster greater regional and international cooperation. Marine science and technology, create or strengthen existing centers of excellence. We need to develop that, innovation incubators and other such institutions. The thought process is on, but we need to step on the accelerator, strengthen and integrate ocean management. And therefore, more importantly, we need to have foresight. And I borrow from Saul Cohen, where he says the overriding factor that distinguishes a realm is the degree to which it is shaped by conditions of maritimity or continentality. We need to breathe, think, and dream maritime and blue economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Sarabjit. That was a very good presentation covering the SDG 14, the blue economy to be viewed as a whole economy for the country without any compromise. Waste treatment, especially when you have these COVID-related issues, has to be properly controlled, and the blue economy triangle you indicated about the deep sea mining, the issues have to be very specifically addressed. Collaboration, cooperation are the key issues, key points, and policies which connect the goals and targets and ocean management is to be improved as far as the blue economy is concerned. Thank you very much, Captain Sarabjit. We will now move on to the last speaker of the session. Excuse me. Mrs. Jonna Simbalista, Quality and Sustainability Compliance Manager from IKEA. Over to you, please. You are muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I will share my screen. So please tell me when it will be visible.
Yes, it is visible now. Maybe the
Okay.
organizers let them give a green signal before you start.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a real honor and pleasure to be part of this meeting and to present what we are doing in IKEA for better ocean, for cleaner ocean. This is just one of the examples of the initiatives out of many we started. This project is talking about creating positive impact for people, society, and planet by recycling fishing nets, which are one of our ocean pollutants. In everything what we do in IKEA, we are aiming to create positive impact for people, for our customers, for our business partners, for societies we are operating in, and for our own co-workers. We also look at the healthy and sustainable living for everybody we are touching by our activities. We look at how we can create circular and climate positive agenda by in our manufacturing, by producing better and more sustainable product. And last but not least, we are also putting our aim on being fair and equal, creating fair and meaningful work conditions in our supply chain and having inclusive environment of our work. And this all gives us better and trustable supply chain for everybody who is working with us and who is working with IKEA. The project which I would like to little bit share, we started with our business partner in 3 areas, in Chennai coast, Vizag and Konkan coast, by taking fishing nest directly from the fishermen. What is this giving us? This is giving us traceable source. It's also stop waste material going to the ocean. And also we have a controlled collections. We know what we are collecting. We know from who we are collecting. And also from the society perspective, you're also securing that we don't have any child labor and bonded labor included in supply chain. So this is the step which we are doing also for the society, that all our partners are complying with IKEA Code of Conduct. Next step is to do sorting, cleaning and processing of the fishing nets. We are also testing all material to secure that we are meeting IKEA and national requirements related to the content of chemicals, to mechanical strengths, and also to material traceability, that we have a clean and good quality material. This is done by our partner. This is done in small setup, in collaboration and good partnership with the fishermen, with the processing factories. And then this material is grinded and it's sent to our plastic producers and converted into product. What we aim by this project, we definitely contribute to the clean ocean. We contribute also to the giving some clean, safe and fair jobs to fishermen, to all people who are processing and recycling material, collecting material. And we also create sustainable product out of the recycled material. So this is closing the loop that this is our small contribution to the better environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jana, for keeping up the time. So this is a very unique activity taken up by IKEA, wherein the fishing net is recycled through a circular economy. The fishermen provide the raw material, that means the fishing nets, which is recycled and it is created into some sustainable products. So that's a good initiative. So what I really would like to indicate that we have completed the discussions today. Lot of specific points with respect to blue economy has been discussed, starting with fishing and also with respect to the cooperation that is required with various countries about the deep sea mining and the need to have sustainable blue economy in the country, touching upon the SDG 14 goals, and lastly about the circular economy, about fishing. So this is the gist of today's presentation, and can I take some of the, I can see some questions here. If somebody can answer, that would be good. I'm not sure whether Dr. Ravi Shankar is available here. Is Dr. Ravi Shankar available here? Because this is a question I think he will be able to answer. If he is not there, I think I will pass it on. The next question is on how can capacity building, skill development in the area of blue economy sectors be enhanced? What areas should be prioritized? The question from Mr. Tulika Sharma. Any of the panelists can take this question, please?
Okay, I'll attempt to answer this question.
Yes, please. Please go ahead, Captain.
So when you look at prioritization, the question is, what are you looking to prioritize? Are you looking to prioritize only the development of that particular sector for, say, increasing its output and capacity? Then we need to look at it holistically, in the sense that first we need to identify which are the blue economy sectors that are, say, operating below par, because there'll be a lot of time and effort that will go into developing them. Then you will have to look at these sectors which are well developed but need a little push so that they keep on producing optimum results in output. So difficult to prioritize in that way. But the prioritization that can be done is, one is to sustain the ongoing output, improve the output, and thirdly, to look at sectors which may be non-existent. So all three would have a different methodology of approach. So if you want to look at prioritization, then to my mind, you should look at these three broad categories of prioritization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Sarabjit. Maybe the other question is, I will try to answer with my own knowledge. The question is seaweed cultivation a game changer in the biodegradable plastic production and reducing carbon footprint in the ocean? Any of the panelists want to answer this? Okay, I will try to answer this in the sense that this seaweed cultivation has been taken up on a large scale in the mainland as well as in the Andamans, and it is possible to produce biodegradable plastics through this on experimental basis. It has been done, but it has not been done on a larger scale. Only in the laboratory scale it has been done, and definitely in locations like Andamans, where even a drop of diesel has to go from the mainland all the way there, it is quite important that there is a facility which can prepare biodegradable plastics in the same location. So definitely it is quite possible, and I feel that it will be a game changer for the future. With this, I come to the end of this session. I would like to thank TERI and especially Dr. Swati for all the arrangements and logistics and bringing all these eminent personalities to this forum and organizing this event. Thank you very much, and I thank all the panelists for giving a very good overview of blue economy. I would request all of you to participate in the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainability, which really is going in full swing at this point in time. Thank you very much. Over to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and the distinguished panelists for sharing your thoughts towards Indian road to a greener future. Dr. Atmanand reminded us of the UN declaration of the 2021 to 2030 as the ocean decade and the areas identified for a sustainable transition to a healthy ocean. So sustainability will be the key, and the economic potential is huge, definitely across various sectors. Some of the key sectors that he touched upon are the fisheries and the coastal tourism. And India has been one of the largest producers of fish. And if we have to retain that one, hence the insurance, hence it is important that we are able to ensure healthy oceans in the future. India's tourism sector accounts for all nearly 10% of the total employment, and hence coastal cities has been drawing lakhs of tourists. So the importance of reducing pollution and harnessing sustainable practices in the coastal tourism sector is extremely important. Mr. Ravi Shankar reiterated about the importance of proper harvest and ensuring that we move from the shallow waters to the deep waters in terms of the fishing. And there are also various technologies that the Institute is currently working on in terms of promoting overall sustainability. He also referred to the aspect of the scheme which the Prime Minister has recently launched, the Matsya Sambada Yojana, with a huge allocation that is going to benefit a lot of like fishermen. Professor Atri referred to the various environmental challenges and the importance of having various renewable technologies in promoting sustainable, healthy oceans. Captain Parmar also referred to the aspect of that it is not only SDG 14, but all the remaining 16 goals which are critical, and blue economy can contribute towards that one. Hence, in order to achieve this ambitious objective, it is important that we collaborate, we cooperate, both regionally as well as a global level, looking neighborhood first, but at the same time also like going globally. Sharing competencies and capabilities with the others would be extremely important. Finally, IKEA's initiative on promoting circular sustainable product, circular and climate positive products, as well as fair and equal supply in product and value chains would be critical. So with this, let me conclude, and I take the opportunity to thank all my colleagues for this initiative and for this wonderful discussion. Thank you so much and have a nice evening.